Have you ever seen unbelievably huge cruise ships navigating through narrow canals? Or maybe a submarine surfacing in the middle of Milan? I've gathered for you the most incredible events ever captured on camera, from insane, foolish mistakes to shipwrecks that claimed hundreds of lives. Since we're on the topic of narrow canals, let's talk about one of the narrowest. At the turn of the 20th century, Greece undertook a major project by cutting through the Isthmus of Corinth to create the Corinth Canal, connecting the Aegean and Ionian seas. The canal has been operational since the spring of 1893, shortening trade routes for ships by a whopping 250 miles. This was a significant breakthrough, greatly boosting the region's economy. However, over time, the canal's importance has diminished, particularly for modern cargo ships. With a width of just 79 feet, the canal is too narrow for large vessels. Yet, tourist ships still use this route, often with the help of a tow, to carefully navigate through the narrow, towering 250-foot-high walls. Recently, the Corinth Canal was back in the spotlight when the massive cruise ship Braemar passed through it. The ship's width nearly matched the canal's width, 72 feet and 10 inches. Around 1,000 people, including the crew, were on board. Passengers described the breathtaking experience of being able to reach out and touch the canal walls. Impressive, don't you think? Now, let's move on to more serious incidents. During the launch ceremony of a new ship, an unforeseen event occurred. The USS Cleveland, part of the Freedom-class ship series, accidentally collided with a tugboat. This happened on April 14th, and fortunately, no one was injured. The damage to the ship was minor since the impact was above the waterline, so there was no risk of flooding. According to a report by the American publication The Drive, representatives of the U.S. Navy attempted to explain the incident. During the maneuver preceding the launch, the tugboat unexpectedly came too close to the Cleveland, leading to the collision. Each time a huge cruise ship enters the Venetian lagoon, it leaves a lasting impression. These ships, like ancient leviathans, tower over the domes and buildings, giving the city an almost apocalyptic look. However, despite their visual appeal, these monsters pose the greatest threat to Venice. Today, it is one of the most polluted ports in Europe, with about 500 cruise ships docking each year. Why? The city's architectural heritage, built between the 10th and 14th centuries, was never meant to coexist with massive multi-story ships. The shallow lagoon and every maneuver by these ships near the city create waves that erode the building foundations, stir up silt and debris from the lagoon floor, and create additional challenges for gondolas and boats. Sometimes these events even lead to real tragedies. Recently, a serious incident occurred when an ocean giant, due to a technical malfunction, a failed engine, began moving uncontrollably, crushing a smaller vessel. On board were nearly 130 people, 5 of whom were injured. Attempts to stop the ship using 2 tugboats failed. The tow line snapped. At least the city remained intact. But foolish situations happen not only on the water but on land as well. While transporting a small yacht, the driver apparently forgot about its size and accidentally hit a high-voltage power line. As you can imagine, all the electronics inside the yacht were fried, a stupid mistake that ended up costing a lot of money. At least it didn't catch fire. But believe me, this isn't the worst example of human stupidity. The footage of the Costa Concordia cruise ship disaster in January 2012 will forever remain in memory as an example of a catastrophic series of events and human error. The liner was sailing off the coast of Giglio Island in the Tyrrhenian Sea with 4,252 people on board, including passengers and crew. But an incredible disaster occurred. Captain Francesco Schettino, attempting to impress guests by inviting them to the bridge, made a fatal maneuver, bringing the ship dangerously close to the island. Disabling the autopilot, the captain took manual control without accurate maps of the local underwater reefs. This reckless maneuver led to a collision with the reefs, causing severe damage to the hull and water to flood the ship. The ship began to list dangerously, and the crew was unable to organize the evacuation properly, which only intensified the panic among passengers. The delayed alarm and improper use of lifeboats worsened the situation. Many had to jump into the water or make their way to the lifeboats on their own. Poor weather conditions hampered rescue efforts, leading to additional delays and more casualties. In the end, 32 people died. Captain Schettino was found guilty on several counts, including involuntary manslaughter and abandoning the scene. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison, but under the Italian justice system, he could be released in just 8 years. Is that fair? But let's take a moment to relax and smile. Who said you need a special vehicle to drive on both water and land? The guy behind the wheel of this boat proved that all you need is a bit of foolishness and courage. Oh, and power, of course. What happened to the engine after this ride remains a mystery. In October 2013, the streets of Milan witnessed an incredible event. Early in the morning, passers-by on Via dei Mercanti, right in the heart of the city, discovered a submarine suddenly emerging from beneath the pavement, bearing the number L1F3. This unexpected sight caused quite a commotion. It seemed that the submarine got lost in the underground canals and decided to surface. Crazy, right? In the process, it slightly damaged a car passing by. Police, firefighters, and journalists quickly arrived at the scene, and locals and tourists watched in amazement. At first, the submarine was mistaken for a Russian one, as it lacked Italian identification marks. Firefighters attempted to make contact with those inside, but when one of them climbed onto the submarine's conning tower, the heads of the submariners emerged, looking just as surprised as the onlookers. The situation was resolved when it was revealed that the entire incident was nothing more than a well-orchestrated marketing stunt by an insurance company. This stunt, under the slogan, "Anything can happen," was so realistic that many initially believed the event was real. The organizers wanted to emphasize the importance of being prepared for anything that life might throw at you, even the most unexpected scenarios. Is it possible to steer a ship after a couple of bottles of vodka? Well, that's a rhetorical question. An unbelievable incident took place in the port of Busan when the Russian cargo ship Sea Grand, under the control of a drunk captain, caused utter chaos. With a displacement of 6,000 tons, the ship, whose captain was accused of being heavily intoxicated, first collided with a yacht, and then, in an attempt to escape responsibility, crashed into a car bridge. The damage to the bridge was so severe that it had to be closed immediately. But the drama didn't end there. After hitting the bridge, the Sea Grand didn't stop. Instead, it turned around and tried to flee in the opposite direction. This led to a full-blown chase by the Coast Guard, who finally managed to stop the rampaging ship with great difficulty. Yes, things like this do happen. The world's longest cruise liner, Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas, had a bit of trouble while docking at the port of Falmouth, Jamaica. The incident occurred around 7 a.m., as the 1,187-foot ship tried to dock in one of the busiest ports on the northern coast. The ship had 6,787 passengers on board. Can you imagine? A video of the incident shows the massive vessel slowly drifting towards the dock before ultimately crashing into it, with the screams of passengers who witnessed the event audible in the background. Luckily, no one was injured, and the damage to the ship was minimal. As a result, Harmony of the Seas was able to continue its scheduled cruise. A preliminary report suggests that the collision may have been caused by a mistake made by the harbor pilot, who somehow forgot about the ship's enormous size. The tragedy of the MV Sewol Ferry, which occurred on April 16, 2014, remains one of the deadliest in South Korean history. The ferry, en route from Incheon to Jeju Island, sank off the southwest coast of the Korean peninsula. There were 476 people on board, including 325 students from Ansan City on a school trip. In the end, 304 people lost their lives, most of them children. This disaster sparked nationwide shock and outrage. The initial investigation revealed severe safety violations as the cause of the catastrophe. The ferry was overloaded and improperly modified, making it vulnerable to listing and capsizing. The addition of extra decks increased the vessel's capacity and load, critically impacting its stability. Moreover, at the time of the disaster, an inexperienced officer was on the bridge, and their decision to make a sharp turn led to the tragedy. It's sad, but the government took action, punishing those responsible and tightening regulations for ship operations. This is sad, but let's lift the mood a bit. These guys clearly wanted to test the limits of their humble wooden boat by packing 30 people on board. Unfortunately, something went wrong. Any guesses why? But don't worry, no one was hurt. Everyone managed to swim safely to shore. Do you hear those screams? And no, it's not excitement from a maiden voyage. The engineers miscalculated the load on the ropes and they simply snapped. The worst part is that people were on board at the time, and it was only by sheer luck that no one was injured. And what happened to the ship afterward? It took a couple more years of restoration work, can you imagine? The disaster involving the cargo ship Felicity Ace indeed became a significant and sad event in maritime history. This ship was transporting thousands of luxury cars from Germany to the US, including brands like Porsche, Audi, Bentley, and Lamborghini, among which were some rare models. On February 16, 2022, as the ship was passing near the Azores with over 4,000 luxury cars on board, a catastrophe struck. A fire suddenly broke out on the ship, quickly engulfing the entire vessel. The crew of 22 was successfully evacuated with the help of commercial ships and helicopters. Despite all efforts to extinguish the fire, it continued to rage for several days, and eventually, while being towed to shore, the ship sank to the bottom of the ocean nearly 2 miles deep. What a shame, so many amazing cars. Here's another absurd situation where the captain seemingly forgot that his ship was a bit overloaded with containers. As a result, the freighter got stuck under a bridge, damaging both the cargo and the bridge spans. Needless to say, such negligence cost millions of dollars. It was quite a sight. The ship had to be painfully extracted from this tricky trap. It looks like a swordfish or a pirate ship attempting to board, boldly and unhesitatingly moving forward without any regard for what's in its path. Everyone was in complete shock. The story doesn't say how this collision ended, but let's hope the freighter didn't sink. Sometimes the passengers themselves can put on quite a show. American Nick Naydev decided to show his courage by making an extreme jump from the 11th floor of a Royal Caribbean cruise liner during its stop in Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas. This episode was not only dangerous, but also violated safety rules on board. Nick, a former gymnastics instructor and an extreme adventure enthusiast, was intoxicated at the time. Fortunately, he didn't suffer serious injuries and was rescued by a small boat that helped him get to shore. However, upon returning to the ship, he was met by security. Nick and his friends faced serious consequences. They were all disembarked from the liner, and Royal Caribbean announced that they would never be allowed to purchase tickets for their cruises again. Jokes about women drivers are old news, but what about women at the helm? A group of ladies decided to take a break and rented a boat, but it seems they forgot to ask how to park it properly. Or dock it, rather. Well, never mind. You can just leap onto the shore, right? In the end, the boat made an impressive parking right on land, surprising everyone around. I'll end this episode with some truly epic footage. The catastrophe of the MV Golden Ray, which occurred off the US coast in 2019, is a prime example of how human greed and short-sightedness can lead to tragic outcomes. The ship, built by Hyundai Mipo Dockyard, was overloaded by more than 1,000 tons beyond its permissible limit, which became a critical factor in its capsizing just 23 minutes after leaving port. What happened began with the decision to replace 285 compact Hyundai Accent and Kia Forte cars with 316 large Kia Telluride SUVs during one of the port stops. This change significantly increased the cargo's overall weight and raised the center of gravity, making the ship much more prone to capsizing. And down it went. To salvage it and bring it back to port, the ship had to be cut into pieces and hauled away bit by bit. It was a truly epic sight, but the price of such greed was far too high. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which incident surprised you the most? Subscribe to the channel, and yes, if you love interesting stories, know how to write scripts, edit videos, or do voiceovers, head over to my Telegram bot via the link in the description. I'd be happy to collaborate. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like.